Alright guys, it's that time again where we are going to be doing a Madden 16 Ultimate Team Legend wish list by the team. And as you guys can tell by the thumbnail and in the title, we are tackling the Dallas Cowboys. And I believe that the Dallas Cowboys is actually a pretty easy team to knock out, being that a lot of their great players are already in the game. Now, let me give you guys the rundown of what to not expect in this series or on this particular wish list, just so that I set the standard and you guys know it going forward. All right, so first things first, I'm going to tackle the quarterbacks. Well, before I do that, this is a top 5 list of guys that I personally would like to see in Madden Ultimate Team. And I base it off of a few things. Now, this does not mean that we are doing the top 5 Dallas Cowboys players of all time. No, we're talking about the top 5 Dallas Cowboy players that I think would translate well into Madden Ultimate Team. So, what do we not base this on? There's going to be 2 positions that are going to be really hard to kind of get onto this list or crack this list, and that's quarterback and running back, and actually wide receiver as well. Now, the reason that those are pretty hard positions to crack this list is because, one, when it comes to quarterback, you either have to have an extremely good name or you have to be a dual threat. Now, by extremely good name, I mean I keep referring to this name. Someone like Joe Namath would make the list, even though he wasn't really much of a dual threat quarterback. But it's going to be really hard even for him to crack the Jets list. Running backs. Again, there's a lot of good running backs already in Ultimate Team. A lot of which, when they're released, people don't even check for them. People don't even buy them, or they end up selling for dirt cheap. And those are some of the running backs that probably just shouldn't even be in the game. Now, there's 2 key things that running backs have that people want in the game. One is speed and one is power. Either one of those 2 types of running backs can make it into MUT, and people would actually sell them for good coin. And wide receivers. We already have a plethora of great wide receivers, good names, wide receivers with great height. Great height is definitely a necessity when it comes to Ultimate Team. A great combination of height and speed is one of those things that could get you onto the list. And when I say height, I mean I'm thinking 6'2", 6'3", and better, if you could get that way. So, now that we have that out of the way, let's get on into the list because I've already wasted 3 minutes of your time. And the first name I'm going to start out with, and this is in no particular order, I'm going to start out with Darryl the Moose Johnston. Now, myself personally growing up, I wasn't a Cowboys fan, but I loved watching the Moose. My first years of playing football, I was actually a fullback before they realized that I could actually run the damn ball. But Moose was a really good, he was like kind of like the prototypical fullback that you would want on your team. He could block, he could catch the ball out of the backfield, and if you need him to get the tough yards, he could grind forward and get those. His specialty came, well, outside of blocking, because that Dallas Cowboys team back in the 90s, man, they were just stacked at blocking, and he was instrumental for Emmitt Smith getting as many yards as he did. But coming out of the backfield was his specialty. He was pretty good at it. He could sneak up out of that backfield. He could get you about 300 yards a season. Well, until his later years where he didn't play as much. But for the most part, we need more fullbacks in Madden Ultimate Team anyway. And he's one of the better fullbacks of all time. Me personally. My personal opinion. Because the guy can block, the guy can come out the backfield and catch the ball. If you need him falling forward into that end zone for a red zone touchdown, he got you. He's going to put the team on his back. Up next, I'm going to throw in Darren Woodson at strong safety. We do need more strong safeties in the game. Right now, I think that we got just Ronnie Lott, and there's probably another that I'm not thinking of. But right now, we need more safeties in the game. Darren Woodson fits the bill. He was actually a pretty decent covering safety, but he was a safety that could come in and lay a hit on you. He covered the field pretty well. In his earlier years, he was more of a guy that could actually completely take away a zone of the field. So if you wanted to go anywhere near that zone, it just wasn't happening. You're either getting blown up or you're just not going to be catching the pass because he'll lock it down. He was also a guy that could force the fumble. So, man, buyers beware. You go near Darren Woodson, you might be in trouble, especially in those early years. Next, we're going to take it back, way back in the time. And we're going with Bob Lilly. This guy could play inside and outside with defensive tackle and defensive end. Bob Lilly was fearsome. 6'5", 260 pounds. So this guy can rush the heck out of the passer. Now, back in this days, they weren't really recording a sack number, so I can't exactly get you a sack number. But if you just read up on this guy, he was a guy that completely anchored the Dallas Cowboys defense, and he started every single game of his NFL career. That's crazy, especially when you play 13 years and you start every game. Bob Lilly was a beast. Up next, we have Edward Lee Jones, aka Too Tall Jones, standing at 6'9", 271 pounds at defensive end. Who the hell wouldn't want this guy on their team in Ultimate Team? Now, again, they only started recording sacks in the early 80s. I think it was 82. And this guy came out just being a sack master. That pretty much was what Too Tall Jones was about. He was a sack master. He had 2 years where he had over 10 sacks. But for the most part, you could say that he averaged about 7 sacks a year from 82 to 89. Now, what did he have before that? I can't necessarily say because I'm not too sure since they weren't exactly recording sacks. But you get Too Tall coming off of that edge, and he was an aggressive guy. I mean, he's smacking folk. He's smacking folk out here. But Too Tall Jones, I think people would love to have Too Tall Jones on their Ultimate Team just because of height alone. Now, they got to get his agility right. They got to get his speed right. But if they get those 2 things right with him and his pass rush, they get those 3 things right with him, hey, they're on to something. Hell, he even had 3 recorded interceptions. So, hey, why not give him an 89 catch? All right, I'm joking. Not an 89 catch. Not an 89 catch. Chill. Last but not least, again, we're in no particular order here, we have Randy White. And this guy, he can play anywhere on the front 7 when it comes to defense. Defensive tackle, linebacker, defensive end. He was 6'4", 257 pounds, so he was almost 260 as well. The guy was pretty darn good. They didn't start recording sacks as a stat until 2000, until 1982. But even in 1982 up until 1988, he recorded 52 sacks. And hell, you could say he took the last 3 years off, as he only had a sack and a half in his last year, as he only played 1 game, or he started 1 game. In the 2 years before that, he only had 6 sacks. But hell, if you go before that, he had over 10 sacks a year. So that's pretty darn good, I would believe. He was another one of those guys that anchored the defense. And I mean, back in those days, in the 70s and in the 80s, the Cowboys defense was like their staple. It was their staple. I mean, Tom Landry pretty much specialized in defense. He was a defensive specialist because you were just going to get punched in your mouth. And those were the days where defenses will punch you in your mouth. So what better way to beef up the Madden Ultimate Team roster than to have a bunch of guys on defense? I don't know why. I just seem to love adding defensive guys to this list. Now, there's going to be some names that I left off this list, so let me say them now. Roger Staubach and Tony Dorsett. Tony Dorsett could have made this list because he was a speedy guy. He was one of the faster running backs in the league. I can't necessarily put him on his list because he was known for that 99-yard run, But other than that, his stats weren't all that great. Like, he was kind of like Marshall Faulk before Marshall Faulk, but his stats didn't necessarily just pop out of the page at you and make you say, this guy has to be in MUT. There's no choice for him to be in MUT. He had good stats, but they weren't stats that would make you say, this guy is just the greatest of all time. This guy is Barry Sanders. Or this guy is, I don't want to say Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson didn't even have all of them yards, but Bo Jackson was a beast. And Tony Dorsett, I mean, he could have made this list, but I just feel as though other players would translate to Madden Ultimate Team better. And I also think, I mean, there's some guys on the list that, there's some guys in Madden Ultimate Team that actually shouldn't even be in Madden Ultimate Team. Maybe at the running back position. Tony Dorsett, he could go in there, but I wouldn't put him in there, or I wouldn't care to play with Tony Dorsett over these other 5 guys, mainly because we have other running backs that could do the same, if not better. Mel Renfro is another one of those guys that could have made this list. I kind of feel as though we have a shit ton of cornerbacks in Ultimate Team. Mel Renfro is pretty much average height. He was a really good cornerback. He was almost in the sense of a shutdown cornerback. Had a tons of interceptions in his career, so you can actually give him a high catch rating. But would I play with Mel Renfro over these 5 guys? No, because again, he's one of those. He plays one of those positions where we just have better players in the game at that position that I would prefer to play with. So that's why I have Mel Renfro off of this list. And also Roger Staubach. Roger Staubach is arguably one of the better Cowboys of all time. The reason he's not on this list is quite simple. Look at Super Bowl Tom Brady, or look at Tom Brady from any year in MUT, or look at Peyton Manning from any year in MUT. The more accurate quarterbacks, right? They never sell. People never go for them. People don't want them. So if you come out with a Roger Staubach event, I just don't see people dropping top dollar on the guy. So, I mean, there's that. Then there's Drew Pearson, a wide receiver. He was a really good receiver, but again, 6 feet. We already have tons of those in the game, and there's other receivers that are already in MUT that would do better. And again, I would use these 5 guys over Drew Pearson, and I don't see many people checking for a Drew Pearson event or dropping top dollar on them. And that could go along with a bunch of the other wide receivers, because Dallas Cowboys had tons of them. But that's why they were left off the list. I mean, you gotta really, really stand out in order to get on my list of Ultimate Team. If you are a wide receiver, quarterback, or a running back, you gotta really, really stand out. Or your team just didn't have that great of didn't have that great of legends, and I gotta put you in there. So that concludes my list of Dallas Cowboys. I hope I didn't ruffle any feathers, and I hope I did a good enough job explaining why certain guys made the list and why certain guys didn't make the list. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Please don't be mad at me if your favorite player didn't make it. Adios, bye-bye, TWT.